Hi, my name is Sheree. I'm Youth Service Outreach at the Monroe County Library System, and Marcia has asked me to come do some YA book talks for you guys. So it's a mix of things today, but I want to start with amazing authors, authors who I would read anything they wrote. And of course, the top of that list is John Green. This is Looking for Alaska. Most of you probably know this book, but in case you don't, very quickly, it's an amazing story about a guy named Miles who goes off to boarding school. His roommate comes into the story. They both kind of have a crush on their friend down the hall, Alaska, who's a beautiful girl. And the really cool thing about this book is in the beginning, everything is titled a month before, a week before. Each chapter tells you that we're coming closer and closer to a time where something happens. Once you hit that event and you know what happens, everything then is after that event. I can't tell you what the life-changing event is, but this was not John Green's first book. It was his first big hit, and then people started reading everything that he wrote. The guy is smart and funny and articulate, and there's nobody who doesn't love every one of his books. The only disagreement people have is which one is the best. Also in that category, I put Lori Halsey Anderson. She wrote a book called Speak, about a girl who goes to her first high school party. She's sexually assaulted at the party, calls the cops, but by the time they get there, she's too freaked out and leaves the party and runs home. They shut down the party, and when she goes back to school, she's blown away to find out that everybody blames her because all the popular kids got in trouble for the party. The trauma that she's experienced is so intense that she goes silent, can no longer speak casually or about what happened to her, and it's the journey of how she tries to heal from that. When they said they were making a graphic novel out of it, I couldn't believe it. I thought there's no way it can be as powerful. It's amazing. It's the same story, but told graphically, and either one or both of them, you'll want to check them both out. Every guy and every girl should read this story because you may be the person that almost happens to, you may be the person who has a friend it happens to, or you may be the person who can stop it from happening to somebody. Lori Halsey Anderson then came out with a book called Shout. This is her story, and this is a book in verse. So there's the regular book, the graphic novel. Lori Halsey Anderson, the author, was in fact sexually assaulted when she was younger. This is the novel in verse that tells you her story. All three incredibly powerful. I have to mention Neal Shusterman next. Oh, Shusterman. First of all, this is the Unwind series. If you can see this cover, it's super creepy. Unwind is set in the dark future when some things are worse, but some things are better. We don't have to argue about abortion anymore because if you are having a problem with your teenager when they turn 16, or you are a child who doesn't have any parents, so the state has had to pay to take care of you, or you're the child of very religious people who want to donate one of their children, you can have that child unwound. And the unwinding process is exactly what it sounds like. They take you apart bit by bit. We have three main characters, one of each of those kinds of kids that I mentioned. When they realize what's about to happen to them when they're on the bus that takes them to the unwinding compound, they figure out a way to escape. Unfortunately, one of their friends is left behind, and you get to witness his entire unwinding process, where first they cut off your fingers and then your toes, and they take him apart bit by bit. His brain is the last thing to go. That scenario was so horrifying to me. I could barely finish the book. I could not read the series, but if you dig that kind of thing, it goes on for 8 or 9 more. Then Shusterman came out with Scythe, his next, one of his other amazing series. He has many. This is Neal Shusterman. And Scythe is the story, again, set in the future, where they've cured another problem. And everyone lives forever. So that's a wondrous thing until you figure out the earth doesn't have enough room for all those people. So what are you going to do? You're going to appoint a Scythe, whose job it is to go out and kill a certain number of people, those that the government deems it's their time to go. If when the Scythe shows up, you go quietly, everyone in your family will be protected from death for at least 5 years. They won't be on the list. But if you struggle, everyone that you know and love goes first, and then you. Now the Scythe is getting very, very old because even though everybody lives forever, you still age. And so he has to train a new Scythe. He takes on a young man and a young woman, and then, of course, decides he'll figure out who the new Scythe should be when they battle to the death. But oops, they've fallen in love. So it's dark, it's creepy, it's a love story. There's now 3 of them out. When you finish the first one, you'll be so happy that the next one is ready to go right to. That's a little bit about Shusterman. One of my all-time favorite authors is David Levithan. These are one of his series. It starts with every day. Every day is the story of A. A is neither male nor female. A is born into a different body every single day. Wakes up, is a completely different person, could be anywhere in the world, could be any life in the world. He goes through that, I shouldn't say he, A, goes through that day as whoever that body is, and then is reborn the next day into another life. And A has never known anything different, so he feels very normal, very typical to A, until A starts to have feelings for someone A meets in a life born into. And now the question is there a way to stay? And if you stay, what are the consequences? And if you don't stay, will you remember the person that you cared for? It's an amazing book. It's picked up, one of the people that A meets is Rhiannon. Her story is picked up in Another Day, but better yet, Someday brings them back both together and continues their story, wraps it up. Oh, I forgot for Schusterman. Let me go back for a minute. Dry, forgot that, he's in the stack. Dry is the story. And with what's happening with climate change right now, a very timely book. So Dry is the story of, once again, it's in the future, and water has become incredibly scarce. There is only a limited amount for every person, and when some houses start to go dry, there's no water in the faucet, and they realize some of their neighbors have water, the battle for the water begins. The creepiest thing about this book is you feel like it could happen on your block any day soon. So clearly, Schusterman is looking into the future, and it's not good. But if you like creepy, there you go. Amazing, fairly new talent is Jeff Zentner. He wrote The Serpent King. We'll start with that one. Serpent King is the story of the son of a preacher, a charismatic preacher, and the son realizes that his dad is doing some very illegal things and goes to the authorities, reports his dad, and his dad goes to prison because of his testimony. The son is now on his own, the dad is in prison, and while the dad is trying to reconcile with the son is trying to cope with his guilt for sending his dad to prison, and some pretty incredible things happen as he tries to figure out what's next for him. If you like a really gritty, realistic fiction book, this is for you. Jeff Zentner also wrote Goodbye Days. It's a heartbreaking book. A kid is texting his friends who are in a car on the way over to pick him up. Because they respond to the text, there's an accident and they all die. And the entire town blames the kid who sent the text in the first place. He blames himself, so he believes that everyone else does as well. He's trying to figure out how to cope with the death of his best friend, how to deal with his best friend's parents' grief when they have always been important to him, and now he doesn't know how to talk to him. So an incredibly, if you're looking for a book with all the feels, this is it. Jeff Zentner is an amazing voice. You're going to hear more and more from him. He has a new book out this summer, and I'm guessing more to come. I also want to mention Jason Reynolds, last but not least. He is my secret boyfriend, although we haven't met. Every day brings me closer. Jason's been writing for some time. One of his first big novels was All American Boys. It's written with Brandon Keeley. Jason is black, Brandon is white, and they write the story of two teammates, one black, one white. The black kid is in a store one night when a customer falls and is hurt. He goes over to help her up, and the storekeeper blames him for the accident, calls the cops. Cops haul the kid out of the store, beat the crap out of him so badly on the sidewalk, he's hospitalized. Meantime, the white teammate sees the whole thing happen. He was trying to sneak in and buy beer, so he's moved back into the shadows, films the whole thing, and realizes that the cop who did the beating is the older brother of his best friend. And now he's torn between trying to figure out how someone he admires so much could have done this thing, and he's struggling with what to do. In the meantime, the kid who's in the hospital is surrounded by his family, his dad, who just wants it all to stop, his mom, who just wants her kid to be okay, and his brother, who's pushing him to make a really big political statement about this. It's an amazing book. All the viewpoints are represented. Jason didn't just write the black kid and Brandon the white kid, but you hear both voices so strongly. Gives you a lot to think about in today's climate. One of Jason's latest is Long Way Down. This is also a novel in verse. If you've never tried him, give him a chance. I thought, I'm not comfortable with poetry, it doesn't work for me. But when you start reading these novels in verse, it's as if the person is speaking directly to you. Each chapter you can see maybe is very small and slight. So if you're looking for a faster read, this is it. This is about a kid whose brother is gunned down in the street, and the kid is observing what he believes to be the law of the street, which is when somebody hurts one of yours, you get revenge. So he's found his brother's gun, and he's going after the kid he thinks shot him. As he steps onto the elevator from his apartment building to go down to the ground floor and find this kid and shoot him, a lot of people start to come on and off the elevator, and his experience there leaves you very much with a question at the end of this book, which is not my thing, but it certainly creates a lot of conversation. I hope that you try one of these authors, all of these authors, read everything they ever wrote, read across them all. Thanks a lot. Bye.